Today's headline is Taking Toll of the Wily meal grafter in New York. The subheadline says, A collection of curious checks and how they happen, with other points on a slippery profession. It says, a man who has managed several popular restaurants in this city lingered over his cheese and coffee and talked about the arts of the Wily meal grafter. The man who expects to make money in the New York restaurant game will find that just as important as artistic surroundings, a capable chef, and that indefinable atmosphere of prosperity and good fellowship which the New Yorker demands, is a member of his staff who can spot and outwit a meal grafter. And the smarter his establishment, the greater the need for cannon. As a result of my first few seasons in the business, I have an interesting collection of worthless checks, some of them signed by men whose names you would recognize instantly, and no end of phony jewelry. Today, it takes a smooth one to get past me. Only the other day, one of my keenest captains let a grafter turn a clever trick. It happened during the luncheon hour on a day when our most popular room was crowded with men and women. At a table near the door sat a couple who had nearly finished an elaborate meal, including cocktails and wine. Suddenly, they fell into a dispute, not noisy, but just keen enough to attract the attention of neighbors and waiters. Apparently, the discussion put an end to their desire to eat. They merely toyed with their dessert. Finally, the woman leaned across the table, said something in a cutting undertone, rose abruptly, grabbed her furs, and almost ran from the room. The man looked after her blankly, then dropped his head. Everybody in the vicinity, including my worthy captain, turned sympathetic. Anyone hates a woman to make a scene in public. For a few minutes, the chap sat perfectly still, one hand in his pocket, the other turning the menu card over and over. Then an expression of determination settled on his face. He pulled himself together, sprang to his feet, squared his shoulders, and moved swiftly toward the door. Some of my regular patrons told me later that then and there, they laid wagers as to whether he would bring her back or send her packing in a cab. Now in my cafe, one waiter serves 2, if not 3 tables. The boy who had been serving this couple had gone to the kitchen to fill another order, before bringing their finger bowls in check. On his return, the vacant table struck terror to his soul. A waiter who lets a grafter get the better of him loses the amount of the check. This boy fairly flung himself at the captain, who woke up to the hideous financial possibilities of the situation. Both of them dashed into the corridor, only to learn that the man had checked his hat on the floor below, had redeemed it with a nickel, and had vanished. A clever bit of acting by these two had earned them an $8.75 luncheon for 5 cents. Then one evening, a man whom almost any New Yorker would tag as a substantial out-of-town businessman with money to burn on Manhattan friends, entertained 3 good-looking women at my expense. They were all in evening clothes, apparently bound for the play after dinner. The check ran a trifle over $30, and the man offered the waiter in settlement a $100 bill. Just as he laid it on the silver tray, he bent over and glanced at it sharply. By Jove, he said to one of his guests, I believe someone has given me a counterfeit. The quartet studied it with interest, the waiter looking over the man's shoulder. Then the host arose and said he would see what the cashier thought about it. I happened to be standing at the desk, and we all examined the bill. Sure enough, it was a counterfeit, and a mighty good one. The man opened his wallet and found a $5 bill. In his pocket, there was some small change. He seemed more embarrassed over the situation than troubled over the loss of $100, which in itself should have aroused my suspicion. But he bore every earmark of the substantial out-of-town businessman, and sure enough he offered to write me a check on a St. Louis bank. Better still, he said, if I would send one of my men to his hotel, one of the most conservative in the city, after the play, he would settle for the check in cash. In the meantime, he would gladly leave his watch and the $5 note as a guarantee. He was so simple and straightforward that I didn't like to see him starting to the theater with 3 good-looking women and less than $1 in cash. When I sent my man to the hotel, he learned that no such person had registered, and the man never showed up. Sore? Well, rather, especially as I had no one else to blame. That phony $100 bill came very near getting me into the sort of row no restaurant man likes to have. It happened that at this time, I was running an inn in Westchester County that was very popular with motorists. I ran out there one afternoon to find my cashier in trouble over a $100 bill that to all appearances was perfectly good. Only in this instance, it had been offered in payment for a $4.65 check, and the cashier hadn't the change. It was a dull time of the day, and he had just sent a man to the village 5 miles away for change to use for the dinner trade. The cashier explained that the patron was an actor who wanted to hurry back to town for the evening performance. Now, the combination of an actor with a $100 bill and my experience with the other 100 note made me suspicious. I crossed to the table to see what could be done. The actor I recognized instantly as a popular Broadway leading man. His guest was a stunningly gowned woman. He explained that in leaving his hotel in haste for this run, he had glanced into his wallet to see what he supposed was a $10 bill. It was not his fault that it turned out to be 100, nor that my cashier was short of change, and he couldn't leave his watch as security because he had already left it with the jeweler to be regulated. But one thing was sure. He intended to start for town in precisely 5 minutes. No manager had ever held a curtain for him. At this moment, the woman offered to leave her gold mesh purse, which she admitted contained 19 cents in real money. This offer seemed to annoy the actor, and he turned on me sharply. Do you think I've worked 11 years to build up a Broadway reputation, only to risk it on a $4.65 luncheon check? Here's my card. I will mail you a check tonight. Like a flash, I caught his viewpoint, and I took a chance and received this check next morning. This story came from the great state of New York, being reported in the New York Times on May 19, 1912. Thank you for joining us today. If you want to continue to uncover all of America's lost and forgotten history, then remember before you leave to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and remember to like and comment below. And we will see you next time on Americana Archives.